All right, today we're doing a deep dive into the metaphysics of elemental balance. We're going to break down how a person's own elemental connection defines their power, how you can boost it or shut it down completely, and how the entire world can become a weapon in your hands. So, let's get right into it.
You know, this quote really gets to the very heart of it all. This whole system, it's not just about throwing fireballs and lightning bolts. It's a way to understand yourself. Knowing your elemental affinity is really the first step to mastering your powers, and maybe more importantly, mastering yourself.
So, here's the plan. We're going to start with the absolute foundation, you and your personal affinity. Then, we'll see how that power gets augmented using amplifiers and nullifiers. And finally, we'll zoom out and look at how the environment itself, through elemental media, plays a massive role. Okay, first up, the person and affinity. This is where it all begins. Everything in this system starts with the individual and their own unique, innate connection to one of the 9 dominant elements. So, what exactly is an elemental affinity? Well, think of it like your personal life force, kind of like chi or ki. It's this deep, built-in link to an element that basically sets the rules for your natural abilities. And get this, even if 2 people both have a fire affinity, the way they express that power will be totally, completely unique to them. And that leads us to this really cool idea of tendencies. Your affinity shapes your instincts. It creates these predictable patterns. For example, someone with a fire affinity might be quick to anger, right? But real mastery isn't just about raw power. It's about fusing that instinct with wisdom to overcome your natural limitations. That's how you get real control. Okay, so now that we've got a handle on our base power, how do we make it better? This is where we get into augmentation, enhancing your natural gifts for both attack and defense. Augmentation, that's the official term. It's all about making these small but really significant tweaks that expand what your core ability, your sigil, is capable of. You're not changing who you are, elementally speaking, you're just expanding the playbook. So augmentation basically splits into 2 main paths. You've got amplifiers, which are elements that make other elements stronger, and then you have nullifiers, which do the opposite. They weaken or even cancel out an element. It's like a massive cosmic game of rock, paper, scissors, but with way more moving parts. Let's start with the fun stuff, amplifiers. This is all about how you take your elemental power and make it stronger, bigger, and sometimes turn it into something completely different. And even amplifiers have 2 distinct types. First, you've got a catalyst. This just boosts an element. It's the same element, just more of it, more powerful. A transformer, though, that's different. It fundamentally changes the element's form, creating something brand new in the process. And transformers are basically elemental alchemy. I mean, check this out. You combine friction with air particles, you get lightning. You add heat to water, you get vapor. But if you take heat away from water, you get ice. You can even combine fire and earth to literally forge metal. You're making something new from scratch. Catalysts, on the other hand, are about enhancement. You're not changing the element, you're just adding a new property to it. So you infuse a block of earth with wind, and suddenly it can float. Or you add heat and wind to water, and you don't just have water, you have a powerful storm. Same element, just leveled up. Okay, we know how to build power up, but what about shutting it down? That brings us to nullifiers. This is the art of elemental defense, of weakening an opponent's attack or just stopping it dead in its tracks. And just like amplifiers, nullifiers have 2 flavors. A neutralizer is absolute. It just poof, makes the target element vanish. A suppressor is a bit more subtle. The source material uses the perfect analogy. It's like putting a sheath on a blade. The sword is still there, but it can't cut you. The power is contained. So, how do you actually do this? Well, there are 2 main ways. First is synchronization, where you perfectly mirror your opponent's attack. Same element, same power, same everything, and they just cancel each other out. The other way is polarity, where you hit an attack with its natural polar opposite. Think fighting fire with water. And here are some fantastic real-world examples. Water quenching fire? Classic neutralizer. Light dispelling darkness? Same thing. But the suppressors are where it gets really strategic. Using wood or rubber to insulate lightning doesn't destroy the electricity, it just contains it. Or think about how water and wind cause metal to rust. It's a slow suppression, degrading the metal over time. So far, we've been focused on what's going on inside of a person, right? Their personal power.
But for this last section, we're going to zoom all the way out. Because the environment isn't just a battlefield. Through elemental media, it's part of the power system itself.
An elemental medium is, well, it's basically a delivery system, a highway for the elements. It's any element that can carry another element, acting as a vessel to move it around. And what's crucial here is that this extends your range and can even extend your own senses through that medium.
And the source material points to 5 major elements that act as these conduits: air, water, earth, heat, and light. Each one is a game changer in its own way.
The way they work is so distinct. Air, for instance, is a fantastic carrier for sound, heat, and especially lightning. Water can bend light to create illusions or conduct a current. And earth? Wow, earth is just so versatile. It can reflect sound as an echo or act as both a conductor and an insulator for lightning.
And then we get to the 2 MVPs, heat and light. Because these two are pure energy, they're universal media. They can channel pretty much any other form of energy, which allows for some crazy conversions between different elemental types. They are the ultimate connectors in this whole grand system.
And this last quote really brings everything full circle, back to that core idea of balance. It's an incredibly dynamic system. Light seems to be in a league of its own, sure, but for almost every other element, there's a counter, an amplifier, or a way to transform it. Nothing is truly unbeatable.
And that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. In a system where every single element has a potential weakness and a potential strength, where clever strategy can beat raw power, what does it even mean to be dominant? Is absolute total control really something that's even possible? It's a lot to think about.
And that's our look at this incredibly deep and fascinating system. Thanks for joining me for this explainer on the metaphysics of elemental balance.